Hello, How To Bob here, and I made this video to show you how I changed the brakes in a 2008 Chevrolet Equinox. I'm going to start off by chalking the rear wheel, and then I'm going to jack up the front of the vehicle. I'm then going to remove the front wheel. Once I get the front wheel removed, I'm going to go ahead and put some brake disc quiet on my new brake pads. It says that you can install it while it's still wet, but I like to let it sit and dry out for a little bit. I'll smear it around, get a nice even coat on there. It just makes it easier to install. You don't get a bunch of stuff all over your hands, and it gives it a nice little rubbery coating, keeps it from squealing. So I've got that taken care of. So I can take my screwdriver and I can work it in between the pad and the rotor and gently pry apart the caliper here so that I can slide it off of the pads. I'll just pull it out just a little bit. And now once I take my caliper off, I have to remove the two screws, one here and here. A couple bolts. I'm going to loosen those up, and I want to get a hanger ready for when I do remove the caliper next. So I'll just wrap that around the coil spring here. Then I can remove my caliper, and I'll have a place to hang it. I like to hang my caliper, that way the hose that connects to the caliper doesn't get damaged. You don't want to hang the caliper from the hose. Could damage it and cause all kinds of issues down the road. So now I've got my caliper hung safely. I can set it over out of the way, and then I can remove my brake pads. You can see they have a little bit of life left on them, but it's time. So I'll just go ahead and replace those. This one's stuck in there a little bit. I can get behind it and pry it out of there. And there we go. And then I'm going to remove the clips. I've got new ones. They look like they're in pretty decent shape. Could reuse them, but I have new ones, so I'm just going to go ahead and snap those into place and tap it in. Make sure it's in place all the way. And then I'll remove the top clip. And again, they're not in too bad a shape, so they could be reused, I suppose. But again, I have the new ones, so I'll just go ahead and tap those into place. Once I get those into place, I'm going to use some brake disc lubricant and put it in all four of the channels, the slides, where the pad will slide back and forth on these clips. That just helps it retract better and keeps everything from seizing up. And I want to make sure I don't get any grease on the rotor. So I want to carefully put that in all four channels. I need to also now retract the caliper. Now there's a tool here you can use. You can also use the C-clamp that like I showed you earlier. This is a brake caliper tool, and what it does is just pushes the calipers down. This is a 2-piston caliper, so this one goes up. You can see it's moving up as I press the other one down. So what I'm going to do is push that first one all the way down, and then I'm going to take my slip joint pliers here and push the second piston all the way in. That'll allow me to fit my caliper around the thicker new brake pads. Now that I've got the pistons pushed all the way in, the caliper pistons pushed all the way in, I can take my tool off here, and I'm ready to install my new brake pads. And the one with the warning piece on it goes on the inside. I just slide it into the notches here, and I'm going to use a little Loctite on my caliper bolts. I got everything lined up. I can unhang my caliper and slide it over top of the two brand new pads here, and line up my bolt holes. And then I'm going to put my bolts that I just put the Loctite on. I'll go ahead and put those in, get them started by hand. Once I get those started by hand, I'm going to go ahead and use my impact, make sure it's tight. I'll come back with a ratchet in just a moment. I can remove my hanger, and I'll put my wheel back on. If I can get this lined up here. I'm going to put all my lug nuts on by hand first so that I don't risk cross-threading them. And once I get them on, I can torque them down. Once I get the lug nuts tightened, I want to torque them down. On the Chevy Equinox, they get torqued down to 90 foot-pounds of torque. And when I go to tighten my lug nuts, I want to make sure I tighten the opposite side. So I'll start off on one, go to the opposite side, and alternate all the way around. Now that I've got them tight, I can go ahead and lower my vehicle. Next, I'm going to torque down each lug nut to 90 foot-pounds of torque. And then last but not least, I want to pump the brakes until the brake pedal becomes firm. And that's how you change the front brake pads on a 2008 Chevrolet Equinox. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.